wanted to join are here. That's why welcome everybody. Today is June 24th, and we have our wonderful professor Mariana Alba, who is going to speak about women empowerment today, about leadership, communication skills, and I'm very grateful that our professor managed to find time to do this topic, because nowadays it's extremely important, and we see that female leadership is becoming on a much better level, equal to manpower. That's why I wish you all to enjoy the open lecture that we are doing today, and good luck to Professor. I'll be here to moderate the questions, and also I might have a few ones after the presentation. So round of applause to you, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Ina. Thank you for your kind introduction. As Ina said, I'm Professor Mariana Alba. I have more than almost 30 years of working experience. I dedicate 20 years for the aviation industry. I served the aviation industry for almost 20 years. And after completing my PhD, I found my fit here in the academic sector, where I'm teaching several areas such as communication, marketing, entrepreneurship, and other related subjects. I was invited to conduct this seminar today, and I'm glad that you also made the time. I know that we are all busy and we all have a lot of commitments, but I'm glad to share these slides with you, which are my views on women's empowerment. Let me refer first to a wonderful woman that inspired me all my life and empowered me, as well as my sister. This is my mother. She has an extraordinary empowerment skills, natural skills to lead projects and to motivate us to give our best and to contribute to society. There are plenty of examples, and we are going to mention examples today, but I cannot start this session without mentioning her, to show how she fought in life and how she managed to consolidate a family. We are 4 sisters, and she empowered us since we were very little, precisely because she understood always, and she's still understanding, transmitting her values towards the power that we women we have, and how we can contribute from our little corner to our society, wherever our place is, but how we can contribute in different angles: economy, education, at work, and small projects, big projects, but always contributing to our common objective. So, a few things before speaking about empowerment, because I believe that before speaking empowerment, it's important to speak about power, and only a few remarks on this. I don't want to annoy you with slides that probably you may want to read afterwards, but at least to give an essential academic background, because this is an academic environment, and I believe that from many academic angles, this concept of power has been developed. One of the major exponents about power is the German sociologist Max Weber. And his view on power precisely is that someone will be able to carry out power without the resistance from others. What we have to understand is, what are the reasons to obtain power? It can be positive or can be negative. I listed there some of them that was explored precisely from Max Weber. And I mentioned before that we have to have a clear goal. We have to set our goal first. Afterwards, we can define other objectives. But firstly, what we want to achieve and where are we moving forward. To receive rewards, the support from others, to deter opponents, to gain knowledge, experience, to gain idea over others, or to share ideas with others and have this recognition from our team. But other specialists in this field also highlight that there are many variables that can intervene in how we can obtain this, or what are the factors that can determine the power that a person has. And one of them can be the level of income, or the political influence, or the social class, or can be also the influence. So, sorry about this interruption. I'm not sure if someone wants to comment on what I said a moment ago. If that was the case, please type a message. But in any case, we will leave the room open for questions at the end of this presentation. But feel free to type your comments and I will read them, or I will open the microphone to the ones that has a comment. What is true is that power exists in almost, if not all, places in our life. The power of love, the power of words, how powerful can be our words, how much we can help someone by giving advice, or how we can actually demote someone by giving our opinion. The power of money, the power of stepping away, saying, I'm not going to be part of this. That is, it shows also our freedom to decide where we can be, and with what kind of people we want to deal with. There are resources that provide this power. One of these resources can be an integral aspect of identity. Fashion can be one of them, that shows if I have this expensive bag of those expensive shoes, I can show that I have certain power, the power to buy those clothes, or the power to be part, this sentiment of belonging or recognition, no? That Maslow also explained with the pyramid of needs, how we can influence others in the way that we dress, but also as this way of express the uniformity that make us equal to our peers. A pilot, a nurse, a judge. What are the values that we transmit, and what is the image that we transmit with these uniforms? What are the values that transmit also when we wear the uniform and when we are not wearing that uniform? Do we share the values of the company, and therefore we feel that I have the jacket on and I'm part of this team? I like to be seen with this uniform. I like to be others to recognize that I work for that company because I am wearing that uniform, or I'm working in that field because I am wearing this particular uniform. But we have to understand that power is not a position. Actually, it's a relational experience. We can have power today, but not tomorrow. We also have to understand that through social relationship, we can also gain more power, and we can also be recognized by others for our powerful attitude, for the power of moving things forward, to help others. And this is my philosophy, to ensure that nobody is left behind. Means that I'm going to do my best to ensure that people will be progressing at their own pace, their own rhythm, but at least they will be progressing. and I succeed when they succeed. Of course, there's a moment that I have to decide, well, there's nothing I can do about it, or probably it's not me, the person that can help these other people, but for sure, I have to put in contact this person with someone else that can help that person to empower, to give the tools, the abilities, to show new methods to achieve certain goals. The goals that we mentioned precisely here, the first slide, to achieve that goal. And we don't have to forget that information is power, but power is nothing without control. And in today's world, when people feel such powerful because they have little possessions here and there, we notice that this pandemic leave our power in a very vulnerable situation. We had a job. I still have a job. Fortunately, I still have a job, but I'm thinking about the ones that lose their jobs, and therefore they lose the power to pay bills, the power to be recognized by others, the power to be at home in peace, the power of resting at night. And in today's world, when it's being the more and more competitive, and the complexities are making that our power will be the more and more vulnerable, we have to think and we have to set what are the goals that we want to achieve, and if we are realistic with our ambitions, if we are in this moment, if we have those abilities, those skills that will enable us achieve those goals. We are going to speak about abilities and skills in a moment. Now, empowerment, as this is the core aspect of this seminar, make us think as well, what is our motivation every day? What can give me? Think about yourself. What can give you today the great motivation to be here in this conference? What can you achieve after this conference? What you can learn? But for sure, if you will learn something new that will help you go a bit further. And from here, it's just a 35-40 minute seminar, but what you can explore further. Motivation is essential. Without motivation, we can't go nowhere. But for that, we need to determine at least three factors. Autonomy, the decision to direct myself, to direct ourselves. The person can work autonomously at work, at home, can schedule their tasks. They can also give priority to what is important, to see if the methods that have been implemented to perform a task are the correct one, to master how we can get better skills. Well, my company does not train me. Today, information can be found on the internet, can be found public libraries. Information today circulates in such a speed and such a volume that we can also select what are the things, the aspects that we want to study, the ones that we need precisely to acquire to develop better skills. And what's the purpose of this? Now, I want to learn new things. I want to learn everything. Everything at the end is nothing. Concrete things. What is the purpose? What do you want to learn today? Well, I'm thinking what I'm going to do during the summer, because I think it's going to be a bit difficult to travel abroad. What I'm going to do during the summer, especially because I'm conscious that I cannot stay at home all day, but I cannot stay outside all day either. These circumstances are showing us that we need probably to reset our priorities. what is going to be the purpose of the summer? To paint the house, to develop new skills, to start working a bit more oriented in the new trends of the current subjects that I'm currently teaching, to renew. Well, actually, I'm permanently renewing my programs, but what if I'm exploring something that I did not explore yet, and I take the time now to review? That's a purpose. Because we need change. This situation is showing, and I'm absolutely convinced that we need change, that we need also to judge ourselves, assess ourselves, and see how much I have progressed all these years, and how much do I need to do in order to adequate my materials, my classes to a new environment. It took us completely by surprise that suddenly we were asked to teach from home, and I'm teaching from my kitchen. I don't have the pressure to adequate the house because I have kids or because my partner needs to work also in the house, but many families were struggling with this situation. My peers that suddenly had kids at home, and they couldn't dedicate that much energy, that many resources to perform their work. They need to dedicate time to the kids because they need to also to see how they connect, how if they were following the classes properly, then helping them with homework, etc. So we certainly need change. We need change permanently and more often and faster than we think. But what do we need actually to implement these changes? We have to be flexible. Flexible to the point that even when I'm not in the most comfortable environment to teach, just now I closed the windows. It's starting warm here inside, but it's fine. It's fine. But I close the windows because I think they install a piano out there, and I don't want you to be distracted by noises. Flexibility that, well, I can host this seminar today, but probably not tomorrow, but certainly I wanted to allocate time for this. Sense of responsibility, I'm taking my class seriously. Well, it's just a seminar, it's not just a seminar. Is people investing to hear something that they did not hear. They did not hear before. What are the level of standards? I know the level of standards of this school, which are more or less in line to what other schools are requesting today. Sense of accuracy. From where, Professor Rutherford, from where are you extracting this information? There are no sources there, or we want to know more about this, where we can dig a bit more, this bibliography, about these authors. Clarity, when we explain things in class, what is our mission today? What are our values? What we are going to learn? If I don't prepare things in an organized, in a logical manner, it's going to be messy, and mess will only lead to chaos. And precisely what we need to secure is that we have, at least we try to have a smooth transition, a commitment. Commitment is essential. Sense of commitment, sense of responsibility, sense of purpose are essential in business management at all levels. I'm committed to working every single day, and if necessary, during the weekend, I will work. It's not self-interest, it's enlightened self-interest. I know how much I can help someone. If I need to invest time during the weekend, I will certainly do. But only empowered people can manage these aspects. First, people that has self-determination, people that they dedicate time to their work and not micromanagement. I would like only to mention that Attention to detail is important, but micromanagement is not attention to detail. Sometimes micromanagement is understood as the activity for the sake of activity. We have to differentiate what is important, what are those details that will create a difference, that will certainly show that we care about our work. Sense of meaning, being meaningful. Why I'm doing this? Sense of competence, how confident I'm to do. I'm able to commit something in today or in the future. Sometimes when I reject a project and I said, sorry, I'm not the person to do this. I remember when a few years ago in Mass Challenge, which is an accelerator, which I have the possibility sometimes to support projects pro bono, of course. And a few years ago, someone called me to support them in a project about waste management. And I said, I would love to, but I'm not an expert on this. And this team won the contest. And I was not there, obviously, because I did not support this project. I support another project that was in line with my knowledge and my experience. And even when my group did not win the contest that year, we received an award from the Committee of the Refugees. And I believe that my competences there were more in line with the team that I supported and not with her. Not because I didn't like, it's because I didn't feel confident to support that group. However, I put them in contact with someone from the United Nations Development Program and the United Nations Environmental Program as well. And they won because they chose the right person to support them. People with the ability, people with the skills, people with more contact as well, because we mentioned before, the capacity to develop our skills, the capacity to have a strong network around us and knowing who is who, because that will help us to go a step further. There are, of course, a typo here, let me fix it. There are certainly many cases of empowered women. This is the topic that we are discussing today, women's empowerment. I mentioned my mother first because I know all these ladies that I mentioned here in this list. And there are many other cases. Women that had to fight to have access to the university, like Marie Curie, or Cecilia Grayson in my country, or Alicia Maro de Justo in my country as well. I'm Argentine, Spanish, Swiss. And these two women, Cecilia Grayson and Alicia Moro de Justo, who precisely show the basis of women must be empowered, and women must have the access to education and the labor market. But certainly are the ones that at that moment broke the rules, and they made for themselves a room in their arena where they develop best. So here we have many initiatives that empower women and girls and youth. I believe that we have to sow the seed of empowerment in new generations, convince them that they have the power to change many things in their society, where they can contribute from the economic aspect and also to ensure or to help others to escalate further. And here I mentioned a couple of examples from this one from the United Nations Development Program, also from UNESCO, also from UNICEF, agencies from United Nations, but think about many other organizations, private business, and also NGOs, intergovernmental bodies that are also empowering women in different areas. The gender equality is still being the big question mark in our society. The social, the gender equality, even when Ms. Eleanor Roosevelt, when she drafted the International Human Rights Bill, and she, also an empowered woman, evoked the status of woman in worldwide, and also what will be the possibilities to increase the participation of women in different aspects of society, as I said, still being a question mark. We still see gaps, and we still see that there are barriers that we need to break in order to get better payment, more rights, to have access to the C-suite level, also to have the possibility to balance work and family home commitments, but also for men, because I believe that also men have the right to have parental leave. And there are companies, that's why I mentioned before, there are private businesses that are supporting precisely that the parental leave is shared between both the mothers and parents. So one of the initiatives that reflected precisely gender equality was firstly the Millennial Development Goals, and then the Sustainable Development Goals. Both are basically, in this case, number 3 for the Millennial Development Goals and number 5 for the Sustainable Development Goals are basically the same. As you may know, Millennial Development Goals are 8 and Sustainable Development Goals are 17. And they have with each of them different subcategories. And this one is precisely more or less the same. They change only the number, but they're still being the same purpose. We start the seminar talking about purpose. It's important that we define what we want to achieve, what do we want to fight for. At the workplace, even when there are studies like the one led from the consultancy agency McKinsey, and most of the questionnaire says that yes, it's important to have women in the C-suite level. There are still industries that are predominantly led by men. As I said, I work for the aviation industry, and it is a celebration when we see a woman in the cockpit as first pilot, as captain, or when we see also women that they lead the aviation industry. This thing has to change, because if we want to work towards this parity, it's important, it's essential that we start thinking from the top, because the voice comes from the top. How many women have access to that? How many trainings they have? How much they must also accomplish to reach to that level? And how they can be encouraged and supported to reach that level. So here there are basically what I explained a moment ago, all these opportunities that sometimes vanished from the access of women, and there are few jobs that leave the door open to access to women to have that possibility to work in that field. And there are studies also that reflect how this disparity is observed, is observed also in Nordic countries, where they're supposed to be more advanced than these developed countries. But in this aspect, there are now more reflections about this, because not all women have the same access as men. And with this thing of the COVID, there were, or they circulate some news about how countries led by women perform better within the crisis than countries that were led by men. We don't have to forget we are talking about lives and victims. And to discriminate like this because countries were led by women and they succeed better than men, than countries that were led by men, it's a bit delicate. At my point, that's my point of view. However, yes, at that point we're also measured those accomplishments from these countries. As we said, women empowerment is getting the more and more visibility around the world. There are countries like already in the 60s were already showing the power of women, but we don't have to confuse things. This icon, Rosie the Riveter, was not a feminist icon, was a patriotic one. And his author, Howard Miller, did not want to show the power of women. He wants to inspire others to take the example of those women that went to work to factories, that precisely were supporting the economy of countries. And that's why when Beyoncé was imitating, mocking up this iconic image, was severely criticized by The Guardian, the British newspaper, because she wanted to show that it was a feminist icon, and that certainly not. It was, again, it was a patriotic symbol. And this symbol that was shown after many, many decades provided a different view of things. But certainly what has changed the views of feminism, apart from different movements that have been consolidated, especially after the 60s, is the Me Too movement. The Me Too movement that reported loudly out there how women, the sexual harassment that women suffered at workplace, public transport, in a bar, in a restaurant, in a disco, and this is totally unacceptable. Women's rights must be permanently highlighted, as well as child rights. And I have zero tolerance to this, and believe it or not, but here in Switzerland also, excuse me, there are campaigns precisely to fight against harassment. Harassment also on the public transport. It's simply inadmissible. Women in Trade is another initiative precisely conceived to give access to women to business. The International Trade Center is kind of a little sister of the World Trade Organization. They have a representation here in Switzerland near the United Nations Palace, and they encourage women precisely to interconnect excuse me, with other enterprises, with other women, and also with other business partners to empower their business. The United Nations Trade and Development Conference as well, they have programs that give more tools, more abilities. Both institutions provide trainings and online training precisely to give more tools, to give more knowledge, to give more experience to women that probably are not that familiar with the market trends, also to whom they can establish business. So applause for the vote, and I think there is a long run, there is still a very long run to consolidate women's empowerment, especially in business and education. And this is the point that I wanted to mention here and as of the next module. Gender equality can be conceived solely if we both, women and men, have access and equal access to education, education of quality. Also, education not only about advanced maths, about what is our role in society, how we can embrace more challenges, what are the new trends in the market, things that give us a wider scope on how to promote, how to promote more business and how to sustain the economy of a country. All right. So here we are going to define precisely what we are going to refer to what is this sense of empowerment to build trust and excellence. We don't have to forget that knowledge is power. We said before that information is power, knowledge as well. So the access of education, the access to education is quality, the access of education is essential. The education of quality, systems that enable us to think, to understand, to develop our own ideas, to discuss with others, to open debate, to see the potentialities in the market, to be creative, and to precisely be creative because we are changing. We are constantly changing, and we have to adapt to these new changes. So what are the skills that we need to develop precisely to build that trust and excellence? Well, interpersonal skills, technical skills, all what it concerns to soft skills and hard skills. But to learn how to work with other cultures, how to negotiate with other cultures, to develop a strong value system, to communicate better to others, to empower people. And this can be done with academic programs. Academic programs that not necessarily has to be at top level, has to be, since we conceive or we understand that our participation in society is essential. But we need also to give access to this information to those that they don't have the system or they don't have all this technology to study. The theoretical knowledge obviously is essential, but we have to give them real life examples. We have to also promote their self-reading, to search for more information, not to stick only to these slides. These slides are just a guideline, is just a document that will help us understand what are the topics that we are discussing, but certainly is beyond that. Also to research more on what I'm doing, how can I do better, how I can analyze, how I can critically analyze the information that I have access to, and how I can discriminate. No, that information is not useful, that is the information I need. Because as I said before, there is a huge volume of information, but not all the information is relevant, and not only that some sources are not trustable sources.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, Professor, to interrupt, can we have a resume of the presentation so that we can open a discussion and stay in touch with you in terms of interaction, because I have already received few questions.
All right, perfect. Let's go to the questions then. I think most of the presentation, hold on, most of the slides were shown, because the ones, let me go back to.
I really enjoyed the changes in stereotypes. So when you said about the role of women in life, different countries' policies towards society and female initiatives, and also the qualities that women need to possess to be nowadays successful. You mentioned about skills and the way these skills changed. I have a question from one of the students. Do you think that it is nowadays easier for women to combine the duties of like being a mother, wife, worker, like in terms of influence of multitasking in this regard? Can you give your comment?
Well, I think, Ina, you said it before, that depends the countries, that depends the policy of the countries. There are countries that they have better policies precisely to support women at work. As you know, in Canada, they have 13 months of maternity leave. Countries in the north of Europe, they have 2 years. Well, there are other countries that they have only 3 months. And they give also the possibility to work from home. So that depends mostly on how advanced are the policies in each country. Still is a big fight, is still a lot of work from policymakers, but also our own battle as women to have access to both work, to keep my work, and also to make my family grow. Integrate both.
And in terms of your personal experience, I'm asking now from the side of university administration, because you work in several universities and you are cooperating on everyday basis with students from different nationalities. So if you compare different nationalities, who is more interactive, who is less, like, can you compare in terms of countries, if women are more as students active?
Well, that also depends, and it's not actually not about the country, it's about the culture and the personality. There are cultures that are more reserved and other cultures that are more open, but certainly depends on the personality. There are students that are actually hidden talent, and I identify a lot of people that I said, where were you during the semester? I mean, look, the presentation you did today, and why you wait till the last day to show us this? Well, because I'm like this, I'm more reserved, and also depends whom they have to participate. You know that with big groups, I have classes with 40 students, and sometimes it's very difficult to manage presentations with all of them. But I think that the more we encourage people to have this experience in front of an audience, talking, no matter that they are their peers, they give the possibility to start being trained to speak in front of large audiences, different cultures, and also not only to speak, because the challenge is now when we receive the questions, because we can read the 40, 50 slides. Ina, you got me in slide 33, and I still have materials to show to the students, but basically the biggest part is done. Now I have to be ready to answer, and this is the real challenge. Are we ready to receive questions? Are we ready to accept that someone has a different view on things? How we can analyze immediately a different position, completely different position from someone, and how we can arrive to a common, or at least a common view on things. Well, that may work in that country, but it's widely recognized that in other countries doesn't work, you see? So that is the challenge as well. Are we training precisely in these slides when I was showing, are we training them with these skills to students to understand what is the nature of the business, to what is the environment, how we are presenting them to fabulous students, and when they arrive to work, they are not able to type a letter on Word. You see, and this is something that I have experienced this week. A student that told me, I didn't know how to delete the last page on Word. I said, but are you serious? I mean, at this point is when I noticed that either they don't have any motivation, or they say, it's fine, it's going to be fine anyway. And this is not micromanagement. This is precisely sense of responsibility. You are responsible for what you're delivering, right?
I have some feedbacks from your class that you inspire many people, and even if they were afraid to have a public speaking presentations, that after your class they actually have that power to present.
Yes, correct. And some others, they said, now, as I see my peers, I noticed that mine was horrible. I wanted to do it again. We have no time, but well, we try to allocate. Once they start getting into the swing, once we give them the possibility, and once we push people to do that, I believe that they notice how important is the real life practice.
Yes, I remember one of the candidates asked how big is your professional experience, and you were telling about aviation industry, because it's very important for our professors to be expert in the field of professional.
Yes. Well, to me was my passion. I started with 20 at the International Airport of Buenos Aires, and I learned a lot from my peers, and all that helped me today to be here, and I'm not going to tell you exactly what I did those years when I was a check-in assistant. I'm sure that you don't care about that. We can have a coffee and I can tell you, but this is not the objective. But I'm transmitting that when I was there, I learned those things that today positioned me as a better professional. I'm still growing, I'm still learning. But the first person I mentioned was my mother, because she managed to build something in a critical moment of our lives, when my father lost his job and we need to survive. So it was her potentiality, her skills, and her ability to help us to move forward. And I think both components, private business, but also what I learned at home, the values from my parents, the values that I mentioned here, how they today are in my head, and how I am supporting others, saying, well, this is a circumstance, but you will overcome. And after 2 years, they call me to say, I found a job, or I built a family, or I moved to another country. And this is the beauty of this work, that in one way or another, and thanks to technology as well, the network, we can still connect it with students.
Thank you very much for replying the questions, because I was reading from the emails and I see that we have here audience from abroad, maybe Vienna or Jennifer, would you like to ask something? Do you guys have questions? The UBIS students who is in the class at the moment? Maybe there was a slide in presentation that you really want to devote to. Xavier,
Yes, yes,
go
hello.
ahead.
Hello, Javier. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I went to your presentation the other day, so you're coming to mine.
Yes, yes.
Cool.
Familiar face, yes.
And we can tell this was not previously arranged.
No, no. Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
In one of the slides, you said that one does not have power, one experiences power. I think that was very interesting. I think, could you give another example of your own personal experience regarding that question? And my second point was, obviously, you know, I was raised by a single mom and who was a minority in a foreign country. So obviously
Good for her.
my vision on feminism is very nuanced and very different.
Good for her.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, my question was, if you could expand on that sentence a little bit more, and what if you could give another example of what you mean by that sentence.
What do I mean by?
What do you mean? What did you mean by that sentence? So one does not have power, one experiences power.
Well, I think you're referring to the slide that I said that, because it cut a bit the communication. I think you are referring to the slide that I said information is power, but power is nothing without control.
Yes.
Yes. Well, how we manage the information we have, how much information we can accumulate, and how much information we are able also to transform in specific data, because information as such can be raw data, but how we transform that in information, and that information afterwards is transformed in knowledge that afterward will serve as an experience. Think about your case, your presentation the other day. You have that information. How many episodes of the movie? 12 episodes. But you could certainly not show us 12 episodes. You have consolidated your presentation in order to manage that presentation was built in 45 minutes. And afterwards, the exercise. Exercise that we had the power to be part of and to choose the line where we want to be, the group where we want to be, this one, the one on the right, or the one on the left, depending on the question. That gives to you more information because you were immersed already in the case, but we were observers. And we see the reality of the movie that you projected from outside. Different views, different perspectives, but you already consolidate that in information, and that will be to you your new experience. How familiar we were with the subject, how were your perceptions about our perceptions, and how you will transmit that the next time that you do a presentation. Well, I experienced this in Geneva with a group. This is what we observed during this presentation. I'm not sure if I'm responding to your question.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Professor Alba, we have also a question from Jennifer. She expresses appreciation of the webinar in support of the question that Xavier asked, and she has few questions to you. The first one is, the gender equality is a subject that is widely addressed in the developed countries, where women's voice is more and more heard, and taken into considerations both by society and institutions. What about the undeveloped countries? What could women get their voice heard? What they should do to get their voice heard? You have it on the chat if I didn't.
Well, it's not only about developed or undeveloped countries about democracy. It's about how, if we are allowed to speak about the subject. It's not only about developed or least developed countries. It's about democracy. Are we allowed to speak about the subject? Do we have a right to complain about that? I remember in cases where I work, places where I work, I said, that's not a joke. Oh, but here is like that. Well, at that time I was very young and I was surprised about certain jokes that they did about women and certain comments about women that today will not be tolerated. And this is because these movements, international movements from developed countries, are getting more presence, and also they are they are consolidated better, and therefore they make that these things that happened in the past are actually being reviewed. In other countries, unfortunately, it will take much longer to be accepted. In countries where women are seen as objects, in countries where women are have no rights, basically no rights to drive a car, no rights to go to the doctor by themselves, no rights to have access to education. Education that should be at least the minimum education, primary school. And this happened recently in my country. One of our representatives said, but why these ladies from the countryside will need to know about maths? Well, they don't need advanced maths. They need to know how much potatoes they collect per year, or how many apples they collected per year in order to sell. And for that, you don't need advanced math. You need the basics. And this happened in my country 1 year ago. Of course, he was condemned in social media, traditional media, etc. But these are the things that we were used to hear, and some people took it for granted. Well, it's just what he said. Well, it's just what he said about, but don't take it seriously. I take it seriously. I take it very seriously, because that's a serious offense. And most importantly, you are underestimating the views of, or the possibility, the capabilities actually, the capabilities of a person. Can be a woman, can be men, but he referred about women in that at that moment. You are underestimating the capabilities of someone to progress in life.
We have questions also from Rajab Iswani. Rajab, would you like to voice the question? We don't hear you. There is something with your microphone.
Okay, now try.
Your microphone is mute. I will read your question. Empowerment is all about motivation to reset our priorities and
wait, Nina, can you repeat slowly?
Mariana, you have this question on the chat. You can see the question, and I will just read it for the public.
Okay.
Empowerment is all about motivation to reset our priorities and get higher equal opportunities between women and men. You talked about internal motivation factors like flexibility, knowing our inner purpose. What about external motivation?
Well, the external motivation, I'm an external motivator, and Ina can confirm this. People that say, no, I'm only here because I have to pass this subject. For that, you know what, go have a coffee, and then you come to the exam, read the slides at home. What I want is people to participate in my class. I think I'm a great external motivator. A great external motivator to say to someone, who told you that you can't? How someone will tell you that you can with the capabilities, the experience you have, the culture, the level of knowledge you have. So external can be also at the establishment level. Am I motivated to do something different? Sometimes I feel like the system does not give me the possibility.
Yes.
Sometimes I have the feeling that, oh, I studied, I have almost 30 years of working experience. But when I'm saying 30 years of working experience, is that I have almost 30 years certified, means with the payment of the Social Security. I mean, you can go to the files. It's not that I've been 30 years here. No. With the payment to the Social Security. And I'm so sorry for the people that could not do that, because there are so much abuse in the labor market that they are forced to work in illegal conditions. And I'm sorry for that. I wish I could do more. But in my case, where I have all these accomplishments, and I said, and suddenly someone, oops, put there, where are the merits? Where are the merits of this person? Why the system imposed something like that? That's the sense of unfairness. But unfortunately, I have to live with that. When they said, life is unfair. Yes, but we better get used to it, because there are things that we are not going to be able to change. Now, the external factors that can really motivate you are those inspired figures. I mentioned several here. Coco Chanel, my mother, Elizabeth Arden, these women that were fighting to have a place in life. How many times Oprah Whitney here, oh, your face does not fit on TV. Really? Really? Mm-hmm. Walt Disney, you have zero creativity. Who are they to tell you or to try to convince you that you are not capable to do this? External factors are important as far as they empower us. I don't want to hear someone demotivating me to say, you can't. I want to hear people that inspire me and people that can help me build more skills and give me more capabilities. Yes.
So like you're advising us to forget about the people who are demotivating us, or to face them.
Not to forget them, not to forget, to ignore them.
Ignore them.
Don't worry, I will find my way. You may talk, you may be talking about your abilities, not mine. Not to ignore them, to ignore and to say, I will find my way. This is your opinion.
Okay, I have one last question. You have also mentioned many signs of power, like money, uniforms, or others, which are attached to culture and conventional perspective that is mostly materialistic. What about the power of knowledge, science, and professional success?
Right.
And how could women impact the actual patriarchal world, especially when we see the gap in salaries between men and women with the same performance?
Right. Well, that is it's going to be a big fight, and I mentioned the case of the Nordic countries that are still fighting for that. How much they fight for having this salary, the
quality.
Yeah, the salary equality, but at the same time the conditions, not only the salary but labor conditions equality, that gives them the possibility to access to more important jobs, and when they access to that job, to have that salary. Not because I'm a woman, then I notice, for example, the amount of a woman that, yes, they have that possibility, but the salary is 30% lower. You see, then it's more about policy making, and also how companies want to tackle that problem in order to gain in terms of image and reputation. Because companies that or tackle these problems are the ones that are gaining the more and more in image and reputation. Well, in this company, they are now allowing us to have the creche, the daycare inside in the same building. Japan Tobacco or these big multinationals that they have. So mothers can go and breastfeed the babies in the daycare. Few hours that they can spend per day, few hours, because 50 minutes. Well, I believe that they also have this right. We have others that they have the right to go outside and smoke. So why not giving this privilege to a mother to see at least more time the baby during the day?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. You brought up to my mind another question. Like when we talk about the mothers who empowers their children, especially there are many housewives that we don't know that they are working in the professional field, but they are working from home and they are producing good citizens for the community. Their only credit is given to them by their kids after. Like you, for example, when you have the chance to be a lecturer You're talking about your mother and you give her credit for that. But that's the only recognition. There is no institutional recognition for these kind of mothers.
Absolutely. And my mother says that. Actually, nobody is recognizing me. Financially speaking, I don't have today a salary that says, well, Anna, because you did all this, we are going to pay you. That is something that, yes, at the institutional level now, they are reviewing, my country, Argentina, also my other country in Spain, they are reviewing the policies to give to this woman that were working, because the work at home is not being recognized. Yes. And that's a job itself, you see. It's different. It's difficult to prove. Well, what have you been doing? Bro, you were at home and the house is a mess. No, a house that was precisely a woman that was responsible to maintain that house. We just have a student that mentioned that her mother is a single mother. Well, I must say my mother faced many difficulties precisely because my father was absorbed by depression. So she has to run the house, she has to run the family, the economy of the house. The sense of exclusion that my father felt when he lost his job. So my mother was acting as not only the head of the family, but also psychologist, also mother, also wife, everything. And today she doesn't have a salary for that, a pension, sorry, not a salary because my mother is already retired, a pension for that, you see? So another thing is that you said the access to information. If something I have to recognize to my mother is that she knew every single book that entered the house. And my mother has only primary school. And she likes very much reading, and she learned a lot. Means that she developed the capability to learn by herself. And this is what I'm challenging students today. Because of internet, because of the smartphones, because of this, we are losing the chance to criticize what it has been published, also what are other documents provide better information. I like this part of the seminar where people provide information, where people also challenge, or not to challenge me, actually, that you are raising challenging questions that makes me think that your level is much higher than other students that I sometimes have the opportunity to check, that they type only, yes, you're right, professor. No, I don't want you to tell me that I'm right. I want to put a question mark on what I'm saying and to see if you see things from a different perspective. And I think you have another question regarding the capabilities, developing capabilities. Developing capabilities, we cannot blame teachers. We cannot blame professors. I said before, a group of 40 people is very difficult to handle. But the system must provide tools to support professors, support teachers, to enhance their abilities to teach. Teaching is a very nice job for the ones that we love teaching, and it can be very rewardable. However, sometimes it's stressful, and sometimes it's not being recognized as it should be. I'm not talking about the salary. I'm talking about when we give the extra time to a student that we see that it's not able to move forward or cannot do it by themselves, how much do we recognize this effort to professor? When I spend the weekend with conference call or texting emails to a student, no, do this or do that, how much this work is being recognized. And then is when we have this sense of lack of recognition, also that not necessarily the institution that we work for care about the effort we do, and that it's equal because they will pass, or at least they will complete the course, but we are not building professionals. What I want to help people is to build their own professionalism and to criticize the system. And I have recently a student that was presenting his thesis, and actually he was presenting a new format for a policy. That as soon as he presents the thesis, he will present it to the state where he worked, a small state. But he said, I think this is essential because this control within the hospitality management system will help save lives. And this is a challenge. You are ready to present, not saying, guys, what you wrote is incorrect, saying, I can help the system with my ideas. This is a professional work. And this is beyond school. This extra miles work.
Dear Mariana, our time is getting to the end, and I'm really glad that we had so many questions, and you did a great interaction, and the experience that you were using explaining about your own family, it bring really human touch to the type of webinar like this. And I think we should be thankful for your time as you do it also as an extra activity for the students and for the candidates. And I'm really glad that people were so active. And I encourage you guys, if you have more questions to Professor Alba, to send them to us to University of Business and International Studies at admissions email. I posted now in the chat, and me and my colleague Aiko, who just show up here, we will receive these questions and transfer to the professor, and you will receive your answers. And I'm really thankful for a great webinar that we did. The topic was very strong. I would say it can last forever, because I think it's very up to date, and there are many companies and corporations that face female and male battle. And of course, when we have such leaders that can teach our students and give them the example, it's very important for universities to have such women leadership and empowers. I think if you guys want to say feedback and thank Professor, we have last 2 minutes, and we will put this webinar also for YouTube channel so that more people can enjoy.
You're free, of course, to give your feedback. It's me who has to say thank you for being here, for joining this seminar. I like very much participating with students. Last Friday, when I'm participating in this conference, I believe that we have to give the possibility, the chance to students also to express themselves. And I think last Friday, with the presentation that we did at UBIS, with the group from Vietnam, it was a fabulous time investment. I think that they brought their knowledge, they brought their skills, they brought everything to be heard for an hour and a half. And another thing that I wanted to thank is here into the participants is that not only the time, but also the time that you dedicate to hear the presentation, and from there the questions. Otherwise, the questions will not exist. Yes, of course, it's a subject that is on top of. I mean, it's creating the more and more presence in media, but I'm sure that in the future we will address to more specific things, not the generic women empowerment, because women empowerment is wide. How many topics? And I arrived only to slide 33, means that I still have 15 slides to share with you, which are already condensed there. But I believe that in the future we are going to tackle to more specific aspects, not that the generic. The generic aspect is already launched. We are already talking about women power, gender equality, access to education. Now, we need more concrete actions. We need more concrete policies. We need also to tackle those aspects that probably in least developed countries are not being discussed, or they have the power, or they don't have the ability to reach this level of discussion, or they don't have the freedom to do it. So for us, it's important as well that we use this freedom and we use this power in a respectful manner. I'm sure that we have a battle that we can win, but all depends on our behavior, the way we also open discussion, open debate about this matter. I don't believe in vandalization. I'm totally against of the sense of destruction, and also the vandalization. To me, it's more important that we can show that all these decades that where we reach secondary level, school, university level, help us to open dialogue, to open debate in a more rational and civilized way. I'm totally against violence. And I believe that we have mechanisms today also to address certain topics that are more delicate, but can be addressed in a respectful manner. When we speak about values, and with this I'm going to close because I know that you also have to leave, there are an endless list of values. But the first value, to me, at least to me, is respect. There is not such thing as a minimum of respect. There is respect or there is no. Well, she only said that. Come on, don't take it that serious. It's an insult. No, it didn't touch me like this. He touched me in the way, in an appropriate manner. You are trying now to change things, not to make him feel guilty or to make this person feel embarrassed in front of others. So there is respect or there is no respect, all right? Then there are others: care, solidarity, cooperation, togetherness, many other values. And this is what we have to reinforce when we go to programs like this. I may agree or not with certain things that I saw at Javier's presentation the other day, but doesn't mean that I am going to be annoying the person that is presenting, or I am going to challenge in an appropriate manner the person that was presenting. The presentation was fabulous from the academic perspective. Another thing is the orientation. Another thing is the point of view. That I may have discrepancies.
Yes,
right?
You are totally right. In respect to time and for our participants,
Sure.
I think the topic was amazing, and of course we can speak another hour about this, but due to a time limit and also the conference of Zooms and scheduled classes that I use in the same account, we have to resume and finish. But I wish you all a wonderful day, and I wish you all to take good examples and to implement the tools that Professor Alba was sharing to your life. You have such a strong personality, such charisma, that I think many students would like to continue this topic later on in the class too.
And we will, for sure. If we have the opportunity, we will. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, and goodbye from UBIS, goodbye from Geneva.
Thank you.
Thank you for participation.
Bye, thank you.